delegate pledges. Adam Goldberg is a Hillary Clinton supporter. He's also worked in the press office of the previous Clinton administration. Thanks, Mr. Goldberg, for being with us. First of all, let me ask you a little bit about whether or not there has to be some concern as a Hillary Clinton supporter that the party is still quite divided. You have Bernie Sanders supporters who say, look, superdelegates are not a reflection of the popular vote. It doesn't happen officially until it happens at the convention. We're going to keep fighting. How much of a concern is that?
I'm not concerned. I mean, if you remember 8 years ago, Hillary Clinton supporters were very virulently opposed to Barack Obama. They, made a lot of noise about not supporting him. And then Hillary won at California, still withdrew a few days later, and everybody rallied to support Barack Obama. I think the same is going to happen here from Bernie Sanders supporters.
I was going to say Bernie Sanders supporters, though, are perhaps they're kind of operating and acting outside even of the directives that Bernie Sanders might give them. They're saying there is absolutely no way I will vote for Hillary Clinton. I do not trust her as a candidate. And, I'm not going to cast my vote in favor of Hillary Clinton. Is that not as well an issue there, do you believe?
No, because, again, I remember Hillary supporters saying the same thing until she came out and really put her arms around Barack Obama. Bernie Sanders is going to do the same, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, or a month from now, 2 months from now. He'll put his arm around. He knows that the real opponent here is Donald Trump, and he'll rally his supporters to prevent Donald Trump from being elected. Thank you.
So the big question is going to be, how does Hillary Clinton woo these Bernie Sanders supporters? Because he's brought up some issues that are important to a very large segment, we've seen it over the last several months, of the Democratic electorate. What does she need to do?
Well, I think she needs to appeal to the young voters that he is motivated in the progressive side of the party. And she's certainly been doing a good job of that, I think, so far. This is one thing that's been very notable in the Democratic primary as opposed to the Republican primary is how close and how similar the policies are of Hillary and Bernie. They're really not that far apart. And I think they'll come along once Bernie Sanders starts supporting Hillary and directing his fire at Donald Trump.
Will it be reflected, and should it be reflected, in a vice presidential running mate pick?
Well, that's the great divide. Does she choose a liberal progressive like Sherwood Brown from Ohio, or does she choose a more moderate, more closer to the Republicans like Tim Kaine from Virginia? I think she'll go for the latter. I think she'll go for more independent, because I think Bernie's going to do a great job of helping her rally the progressives. So will Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts.
So you're banking on, well, Elizabeth Warren might be certainly, and it might be expected, but you're banking on Bernie Sanders not just sort of quietly going away, but also actively supporting and campaigning for Hillary Clinton?
Absolutely. He has said that he will do everything in his power to make sure that Donald Trump does not get elected president, and I believe him. And that means actively supporting Hillary and rallying his supporters.
But what would he get in return? What would the campaign of Hillary Clinton promise Bernie Sanders at this stage, do you think?
That'll be really interesting how it affects the Democratic platform. What kind of issues does she move further left on minimum wage and issues that really matter to the progressive base? I think what's far more terrifying to Bernie is the prospect that Donald Trump could be there, that the Republicans can maintain their hold in the Senate, and that you could have another Republican appointing Supreme Court justices. So I think he and his supporters will be sufficiently motivated just by the difference between Hillary and Trump.
And if you look at national polls pitting Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump, about a week old, so it was before the comments he made about Judge Curiel, but still, they are neck and neck. I mean, there is not a lot of daylight between these two candidates. So what should the strategy be there?
Well, I think there is, a good amount of daylight, but it's been early. Donald Trump has been beating up on Hillary, pretty much just had a free shot for the last month or so. She's had to worry about Bernie. It was only, you mentioned her foreign policy speech last week. That was really a great turning point in time. You've seen it had a really bad effect on him and his campaign over the last several days. And I think we'll see that continue. So she's just got to keep on doing what she just did in her foreign policy speech, really drawing differences, really taking him to task.
All right, we'll see if that's reflected in the polling. We haven't had any new figures to look at in the last several days. Thanks very much, Adam Goldberg, who's joining us from Washington, D.C., who supports